How to discover a woman's past without saying a word. Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychologist, unveiled deep secrets about human nature that few dared to explore. There exists a hidden world of signs, gestures, and behaviors that reveal far more than any conversation could ever disclose. Have you ever wondered why certain women react in specific ways to particular situations? Why some demonstrate behavioral patterns that seem to tell a silent story? The truth is that our unconscious mind stores memories, traumas, and experiences that manifest through subtle yet revealing signs. Jung discovered that human behavior follows predictable archetypes and patterns. Each person carries within themselves a shadow, hidden aspects of personality that inevitably reveal themselves through micro-expressions, body language, and instinctive reactions. In this video, you'll learn profound psychological techniques based on Carl Jung's work to decipher these hidden codes. Prepare yourself for a fascinating journey into the feminine unconscious, where every gesture tells a story and every reaction reveals a guarded secret. The ability to read these silent messages isn't just about observation. It's about understanding the deeper psychological mechanisms that govern human behavior and the unconscious patterns that shape our interactions. Every woman carries within her body a living diary of her experiences, written in a language that most people never learn to read. These unconscious gestures are like invisible ink that becomes visible only to those who know how to look. Carl Jung understood that our bodies remember everything our minds try to forget, and these memories express themselves through movements we make without even realizing it. When a woman touches her neck while speaking about relationships, she's revealing something profound about her past emotional experiences. This gesture often indicates vulnerability or a need for protection in intimate situations. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body, and when someone unconsciously protects it, they're telling you about times when they felt exposed or hurt. Watch how she positions her hands when discussing certain topics. Women who cross their arms frequently while talking about trust issues are creating a physical barrier that mirrors the emotional walls they've built. This isn't just defensive behavior. It's a map of past betrayals written in body language. The unconscious mind uses these physical shields to protect against perceived threats based on previous experiences. Pay attention to the subtle ways she moves her feet during conversations. Foot positioning reveals incredible amounts of information about comfort levels and past experiences. A woman who consistently points her feet toward the exit during discussions about commitment is unconsciously preparing for escape. This behavior pattern often develops from past relationships where she felt trapped or suffocated. The way someone fidgets with jewelry or clothing tells stories about their relationship with attention and validation. Constant adjustment of earrings or necklaces often indicates someone who learned early that physical appearance was crucial for acceptance or love. These repetitive movements become automatic responses that reveal deep-seated beliefs about self-worth and how love was expressed in their formative years. Notice how her breathing changes when certain subjects arise. The unconscious mind controls our breathing patterns, and past traumas create specific respiratory signatures. Shallow breathing during discussions about family often indicates unresolved childhood issues. Deep sighs when talking about career choices might reveal feelings of being trapped or unfulfilled in ways that connect to early life experiences. Hand movements during storytelling are particularly revealing. Women who gesture with closed fists while describing past relationships are unconsciously showing how they felt the need to fight or defend themselves. Open palms suggest experiences of trust and safety, while hidden thumbs often indicate feelings of powerlessness or submission that developed from past situations. The speed of movement changes dramatically based on emotional triggers connected to past experiences. Notice how quickly or slowly she moves when discussing different life areas. Rushed movements when talking about independence might reveal past experiences of having freedom restricted. Slow, deliberate movements during discussions about trust could indicate careful evaluation based on past betrayals. Shoulder positioning creates a physical map of how she learned to carry emotional burdens. Perpetually raised shoulders often indicate someone who developed hypervigilance from past situations where they needed to be constantly alert for emotional or physical threats. The body maintains these protective postures long after the original danger has passed. These unconscious gestures form patterns that repeat across different situations and relationships. The same protective movements appear whenever similar emotional territories are approached. Understanding these patterns gives you insight into not just what happened, but how those experiences shaped her current emotional landscape and defensive strategies. 2. The hidden language of eyes and micro-expressions. The eyes truly are windows to the soul, but most people only see the surface reflection. Carl Jung recognized that our facial expressions betray our deepest secrets, often in the span of milliseconds. These micro-expressions happen faster than conscious thought, making them impossible to fake or control. They're direct communications from the unconscious mind, revealing truths that words carefully hide. Eye contact patterns tell detailed stories about past relationship dynamics. A woman who consistently looks down and to the left when discussing romantic history is accessing painful, emotional memories. This specific eye movement indicates she's revisiting feelings rather than just recalling facts. The direction and duration of these glances create a map of her emotional landscape that reveals which areas still cause pain or discomfort. The timing of blinks changes dramatically when sensitive topics arise. Normal blinking happens automatically, but emotional triggers cause distinct patterns. Rapid blinking often indicates anxiety or discomfort related to past experiences. Extended periods without blinking suggest intense focus or emotional numbing, both responses that develop from overwhelming past situations that required extreme coping mechanisms. Watch for the subtle tightening around the eyes when she smiles. Genuine happiness engages muscles around the entire eye area, creating what researchers call Duchenne markers. When someone smiles without these markers while discussing past relationships, they're performing emotional theater rather than expressing authentic feelings. This performance often develops from situations where showing true emotions wasn't safe or acceptable. Pupil dilation reveals automatic nervous system responses that connect directly to past experiences. Dilated pupils during discussions about certain people or situations indicate either excitement or stress responses. The unconscious mind reacts to memories as if they were happening in real time, causing physical responses that betray emotional significance even when someone claims indifference. The direction of eye movements during conversation reveals how she processes different types of memories. Looking up and to the right typically indicates accessing visual memories, while looking down and to the right suggests accessing feelings. Women who consistently avoid certain eye movement patterns when discussing specific topics are unconsciously trying to avoid reliving particular aspects of their past experiences. Micro-expressions of disgust, fear, or anger flash across facial features in milliseconds before conscious control takes over. These split-second expressions reveal authentic emotional responses to past experiences. A brief flash of disgust when mentioning someone's name tells you everything about that relationship, even if her words suggest neutrality or forgiveness. The muscles around the mouth create subtle patterns that reveal emotional truths. Tiny contractions at the corners of the mouth during discussions about family often indicate suppressed anger or disappointment. These micro-movements happen automatically when painful memories are triggered, creating brief glimpses into emotional territories that conscious speech avoids. Notice how her eyebrows move during different parts of conversations. Slight raising when discussing certain people indicates surprise or disbelief that may still be unresolved. Subtle furrowing suggests confusion or concern that continues to affect her current emotional state. These movements happen so quickly that most people miss them entirely. The coordination between eye movements and facial expressions creates complex patterns that reveal emotional complexity. When someone's eyes move in one direction while their facial expressions suggest different emotions, you're seeing internal conflict between memory and current emotional management strategies. These contradictions often indicate ongoing psychological processing of past experiences that haven't been fully resolved or integrated. 3. How past traumas reveal themselves in the present. The human mind has an incredible ability to protect itself by burying painful memories, but these experiences never truly disappear. They live on in the present moment through reactions, triggers, and behaviors that seem to come from nowhere. Carl Jung understood that trauma creates invisible wounds that continue to influence our daily lives in ways we don't consciously recognize. These past experiences shape how we respond to current situations, often in patterns that feel automatic and beyond our control. When a woman flinches slightly at unexpected touch, even from someone she trusts, her body is remembering times when touch wasn't safe. This physical response happens faster than thought, originating from a part of the brain that stores survival memories. The nervous system maintains these protective responses long after the original threat has passed, creating present-moment reactions that seem out of proportion to current circumstances. Listen for changes in voice tone when certain subjects arise. Trauma often creates distinct vocal signatures that emerge when related topics are discussed. A voice that becomes smaller or higher-pitched when talking about authority figures might indicate past experiences with controlling or abusive relationships. The throat literally constricts when accessing these memories, creating audible changes that reveal emotional territories marked by past pain. Pay attention to how she responds to conflict or disagreement. Women who immediately become extremely accommodating or who shut down completely during minor disagreements are often replaying survival strategies from past situations where conflict felt dangerous. These responses developed as protective mechanisms but continue to activate even in safe relationships, creating present-moment behaviors that seem disconnected from current reality. Notice patterns in what she avoids or approaches with unusual intensity. Trauma creates both avoidance behaviors and compensatory behaviors that can seem contradictory. Someone who experienced emotional neglect might either avoid intimate connections entirely or pursue them with desperate intensity. Both responses stem from the same original wound, but manifest in opposite ways in current relationships. The timing of emotional reactions often reveals trauma signatures. Delayed responses to events that should produce immediate reactions, or intense reactions to seemingly minor situations, both indicate past experiences that altered normal emotional processing. The nervous system learned to either shut down or hyperactivate based on survival needs, and these patterns continue operating in present circumstances. Watch for perfectionist behaviors that seem driven by fear rather than genuine standards. Trauma often creates beliefs about safety that require perfect performance to avoid punishment or abandonment. A woman who becomes visibly distressed by minor mistakes or who works compulsively to avoid criticism is often managing past experiences where imperfection led to emotional or physical consequences. Sleep patterns and energy levels fluctuate based on trauma anniversary dates or seasonal triggers that she might not even consciously recognize. The body keeps score of traumatic events, often creating physical symptoms or emotional states that seem to appear randomly, but actually follow patterns connected to past experiences. Unexplained periods of depression, anxiety, or physical illness sometimes correlate with significant dates from painful past events. Notice how she handles privacy and personal boundaries. Trauma affects the ability to maintain healthy boundaries. often creating either rigid walls or complete openness that doesn't match the situation. Someone who shares deeply personal information very quickly, or who becomes secretive about normal daily activities, is often managing past experiences where boundaries were violated or where secrecy was necessary for survival. The way she talks about her own emotions reveals trauma processing patterns. Women who describe their feelings as if they're observing someone else, or who seem disconnected from their own emotional experiences, often learn to dissociate during overwhelming situations. This protective mechanism continues operating even when safety has been established, creating a sense of emotional numbness or detachment in current relationships. 4. Behavioral patterns that never lie. Human behavior follows predictable patterns that reveal far more than conscious words ever could. These patterns develop over years of experience and become automatic responses that operate below the level of awareness. Carl Jung recognized that our behavioral patterns are like fingerprints of our psychological development, showing exactly how we learn to navigate relationships and emotional challenges throughout our lives. The way someone handles money reveals deep beliefs about security and worth that formed during childhood and early relationships. A woman who hoards resources despite having plenty might have experienced periods of scarcity that created permanent anxiety about survival. Conversely, someone who spends recklessly might be unconsciously proving their worth or rebelling against past restrictions that felt suffocating or controlling. Notice how she interacts with service workers, waitstaff, or anyone in subordinate positions. These interactions reveal authentic character because they happen when someone believes they're not being evaluated. A woman who treats service workers with genuine respect likely developed empathy from experiencing vulnerability herself. Dismissive or demanding behavior toward people she perceives as having less power often indicates past experiences where she felt powerless and is now overcompensating. The timing of when she reaches out for contact or support creates patterns that reveal attachment styles formed in early relationships. Someone who only calls when they need something might have learned that their value came from what they could provide, rather than who they were. Conversely, someone who maintains constant contact might have experienced abandonment that created anxiety about relationship security. Watch how she handles secrets or private information about others. This behavior reveals crucial information about trustworthiness and personal boundaries. Someone who freely shares other people's private information likely has difficulty maintaining appropriate boundaries, often stemming from environments where privacy wasn't respected or where gossip was used as social currency. The way she responds to genuine compliments shows how she learned to relate to positive attention. Uncomfortable deflection of sincere praise often indicates past experiences where compliments came with strings attached or where accepting praise felt dangerous. Excessive fishing for compliments might reveal past emotional neglect that created ongoing needs for external validation. Notice patterns in how she ends relationships or handles transitions. These behaviors reveal strategies learned from past experiences of loss or change. Someone who disappears without explanation might have learned that confrontation leads to pain or rejection. Conversely, someone who clings desperately to ending relationships might have experienced abandonment that created fears about being alone. The consistency between her stated values and actual choices reveals integrity levels that developed from past experiences with authenticity. Someone whose actions consistently contradict their stated beliefs might have learned to perform rather than express authentic feelings. This performance often develops in environments where being genuine wasn't safe or acceptable. Pay attention to how she handles stress or pressure. These responses become automatic and reveal coping strategies learned during difficult past experiences. Someone who becomes completely organized and controlling under pressure might have learned that chaos leads to danger. Someone who shuts down entirely might have discovered that becoming invisible was the safest survival strategy. The way she talks about past relationships reveals patterns in how she processes emotional experiences. Someone who only speaks negatively about all past partners might be unable to take responsibility for relationship dynamics. Someone who takes complete blame for all relationship problems might have learned that accepting fault was necessary to maintain connection. Notice how she responds to unexpected kindness or generosity. These reactions reveal beliefs about what she deserves that formed from past treatment. Suspicion of genuine kindness often indicates past experiences where kindness came with hidden costs. Overwhelming gratitude for normal consideration might reveal past emotional deprivation that makes ordinary kindness feel extraordinary. 5. The Jungian shadow. Unveiling the hidden side. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow represents one of the most powerful tools for understanding human nature. The shadow contains all the aspects of personality that we've learned to hide, deny, or suppress throughout our lives. These rejected parts of ourselves don't disappear. They operate from the unconscious, influencing behavior in ways that reveal our deepest secrets and most formative experiences. Understanding someone's shadow means seeing the complete picture of who they really are beneath the carefully constructed persona they present to the world. Every person develops a public mask that shows only socially acceptable traits, while hiding characteristics they believe are undesirable or dangerous to reveal. This mask forms during childhood based on what behaviors received approval or punishment from caregivers and society. A woman's shadow often contains the opposite qualities of what she consciously displays, creating internal tension that manifests in subtle but revealing ways throughout her daily interactions. The shadow reveals itself most clearly in moments of stress, fatigue, or emotional overwhelm when conscious control weakens. During these vulnerable moments, suppressed aspects of personality briefly surface before being quickly pushed back down. A woman who normally appears gentle and accommodating might show flashes of intense anger or aggression when pushed beyond her limits. These glimpses reveal the parts of herself she learned were unacceptable, but never actually eliminated. Pay attention to what qualities in other people trigger the strongest negative reactions. Jung understood that we most strongly hate in others what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. A woman who becomes particularly upset by dishonesty in others might be struggling with her own relationship to truth. Someone who judges others harshly for being needy or attention-seeking might be suppressing their own deep needs for validation and connection. Notice the gap between stated values and unconscious reactions. The shadow often operates in direct opposition to conscious beliefs, creating internal conflicts that play out in confusing behavioral patterns. Someone who claims to value independence might unconsciously sabotage their own success to maintain familiar patterns of dependence learned in childhood. These contradictions reveal the ongoing battle between conscious intentions and unconscious programming. The shadow frequently emerges in intimate relationships, where emotional safety allows suppressed aspects to surface. Partners often become unwitting containers for projected shadow material, receiving blame or criticism for qualities that actually exist within the person doing the projecting. A woman who consistently attracts unreliable partners might be unconsciously seeking people who will act out the unreliability she won't acknowledge in herself. Dreams and fantasy life provide direct access to shadow material that conscious awareness filters out during waking hours. The characters and scenarios that appear in dreams often represent suppressed aspects of personality trying to gain recognition. A woman who dreams repeatedly about being powerful or aggressive might be compensating for a waking life where she's learned to be perpetually accommodating and passive. Humor and sarcasm frequently serve as socially acceptable ways for shadow material to express itself. The things someone jokes about, especially with underlying edge or cruelty, often reveal suppressed feelings or judgments they can't express directly. Someone who makes frequent jokes about others' failures might be managing their own deep fears about inadequacy or success. The shadow also contains positive qualities that were suppressed due to family dynamics or cultural conditioning. Many women learn to hide their intelligence, ambition, or leadership abilities because these traits were discouraged or punished in their formative environments. These positive shadow qualities create internal pressure and often emerge in indirect ways that can seem inconsistent with their presented personality. Physical symptoms and chronic health issues sometimes represent shadow material trying to gain attention. The body often expresses what the conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. Chronic throat problems might indicate suppressed voice or truth-telling. Digestive issues could represent difficulty processing or accepting certain aspects of life experience. These physical manifestations often correlate with specific emotional territories that remain unexplored. Integration of shadow material is essential for psychological health and authentic relationships. When someone begins acknowledging and accepting their hidden aspects, their behavior becomes more consistent and their relationships more genuine. The energy previously used to suppress shadow qualities becomes available for creative expression and authentic connection. This integration process often creates temporary instability as old patterns shift and new ways of being emerge. 6. Body signals that tell silent stories. The human body serves as a living archive of every significant experience, storing memories in muscles, posture, and movement patterns that speak louder than words ever could. Carl Jung understood that psychological experiences create physical signatures that remain long after conscious memories fade. These bodily expressions of past experience operate continuously, broadcasting information about personal history to anyone who knows how to interpret the silent language of physical presence. Posture tells the story of how someone learned to navigate the world and protect themselves from perceived threats. A woman who consistently hunches her shoulders carries the physical memory of trying to make herself smaller or less visible. This protective posture often develops from childhood experiences, where being noticed led to criticism, punishment, or unwanted attention. The body maintains this defensive position even in safe environments, creating a permanent physical reminder of past vulnerability. The way someone breathes reveals the emotional climate they learned to survive in during their formative years. Shallow chest breathing often indicates someone who learned that deep relaxation wasn't safe, maintaining a constant state of subtle alertness. Deep belly breathing suggests someone who experienced enough safety to develop natural relaxation responses. Irregular breathing patterns during certain topics show where emotional landmines still exist from past experiences. Hand and arm positions create a map of personal boundaries and emotional availability. Women who keep their arms crossed or hands clasped tightly are often protecting themselves from emotional intrusion based on past experiences where their boundaries were violated. Open arm positions with relaxed hands suggest someone who learned that emotional availability was generally safe and rewarding rather than dangerous. The jaw holds enormous amounts of tension related to suppressed expression and unspoken truths. A chronically tight jaw often indicates someone who learned early that speaking their truth was dangerous or unwelcome. Grinding teeth during sleep or clenching during stress shows ongoing internal conflicts between what wants to be expressed and what feels safe to reveal. The jaw literally holds back words that were never allowed to be spoken. Leg and foot positioning reveals someone's relationship to stability and their readiness to flee from emotional danger. Women who sit with feet firmly planted often learned they could trust their environment and their ability to handle whatever arose. Those who sit with feet tucked under them or positioned for quick escape often carry memories of situations where emotional or physical safety required ready mobility. The neck and throat area stores memories related to voice, truth-telling, and authentic expression. Frequent throat clearing, touching the neck during conversation, or chronic throat tension often indicates past experiences where speaking truth led to punishment or rejection. The throat chakra, as some traditions call it, literally constricts when accessing memories of times when authentic expression wasn't safe or welcome. Chronic muscle tension in specific areas creates patterns that reveal ongoing psychological stress related to past experiences. Tight hip flexors often indicate someone who maintains constant readiness for action, unable to fully relax into the present moment. Tension in the back muscles suggests someone who learned they had to carry emotional burdens alone without support from others. The way someone takes up space physically reveals their learned beliefs about their right to exist and be seen. Women who make themselves physically smaller, speak quietly, or apologize for their presence often experienced environments where their natural expression was deemed too much or inappropriate. Conversely, those who take up excessive space might be overcompensating for past experiences of being ignored or dismissed. Skin conditions and physical sensitivities often correlate with emotional boundaries and past experiences of violation or intrusion. Someone with chronic skin issues might be literally trying to create a barrier between themselves and the world based on past experiences where their personal boundaries weren't respected. The skin serves as the body's first line of defense, and it often reflects the psychological need for protection. Energy levels and movement patterns reveal how someone learned to manage their life force and personal power. Women who move with consistent low energy might have learned that high energy or enthusiasm wasn't safe or acceptable. Those with frenetic energy patterns might be running from internal experiences that feel too painful to slow down and feel. The body's energy signature tells the story of how personal power was either supported or suppressed during crucial developmental periods. 7. The collective unconscious and feminine archetypes. Carl Jung's discovery of the collective unconscious revealed that beneath our personal experiences lies a deeper layer of shared human patterns and archetypal energies that influence behavior across cultures and throughout history. These archetypes represent universal themes in human experience, and understanding which archetypal patterns dominate someone's personality reveals profound insights into their psychological structure, motivations, and the stories they unconsciously live out in their relationships and life choices. The mother archetype manifests in women who have learned to find identity and worth through nurturing others, often at the expense of their own needs and development. This pattern usually develops from childhood experiences where love and attention were earned through caretaking responsibilities. Women operating primarily from this archetype might unconsciously attract people who need rescuing or fixing, creating relationships that maintain familiar patterns of giving without receiving equal support or consideration. The maiden archetype represents eternal youth, innocence, and potential that remains perpetually unfulfilled. Women stuck in this pattern often struggle with commitment, responsibility, and the natural progression of life stages. This archetype typically develops from environments where growing up felt dangerous or where remaining childlike was the only way to receive protection and care. These women might unconsciously sabotage adult relationships or responsibilities to maintain familiar patterns of dependence and protection. The lover archetype drives women who find identity and meaning primarily through romantic relationships and sexual expression. While healthy lover energy creates passionate, connected relationships, the shadow side can manifest as desperation for romantic validation or using sexuality to gain power or security. Women dominated by this archetype often experience childhood environments where their worth was tied to their ability to please others, or where emotional needs were met inconsistently. The wise woman or crone archetype emerges in women who have integrated their life experiences into wisdom and authentic personal power. However, women who access this archetype prematurely might do so as protection against vulnerability, using wisdom as a shield against emotional intimacy. This pattern often develops from childhood experiences where emotional safety required premature maturity and responsibility beyond their developmental capacity. The warrior archetype manifests in women who learn to survive through strength, independence, and constant vigilance. While healthy warrior energy creates powerful, capable women, the shadow side can manifest as inability to receive support, chronic hypervigilance, or using aggression to maintain control. This archetype typically develops from environments where gentleness or vulnerability led to harm or exploitation, requiring constant defensive positioning. The queen archetype represents mature feminine power that can create order, provide leadership, and maintain healthy boundaries. Women operating from wounded queen energy might become controlling, demanding, or entitled, expecting others to serve their needs without reciprocation. This pattern often develops from a childhood experiences of either being treated as special without earning it, or from having to fight for basic recognition and respect. The rebel archetype drives women who find identity through opposition to authority and conventional expectations. While healthy rebel energy creates innovation and positive change, the shadow side can manifest as chronic opposition to any structure or commitment, including relationships that require compromise or mutual obligation. This archetype typically forms from environments where conformity felt suffocating or where rebellion was the only way to maintain individual identity. The mystic archetype manifests in women who seek meaning through spiritual or transcendent experiences, often preferring inner worlds to practical reality. While healthy mystic energy creates deep wisdom and intuitive understanding, the shadow side can manifest as escapism from practical responsibilities or using spiritual concepts to avoid emotional intimacy. This pattern often develops from childhood environments where reality felt too painful or overwhelming to fully engage. Understanding someone's dominant archetypal pattern reveals the unconscious story they're living out in their relationships and life choices. These patterns operate automatically, creating repetitive experiences that feel familiar even when they're ultimately unsatisfying. A woman dominated by the wounded mother archetype will unconsciously attract people who need caretaking, while someone operating from wounded maiden energy will consistently find ways to avoid full adult responsibility and commitment. The integration of archetypal energies creates psychological wholeness and authentic personal power. When someone can access different archetypal energies appropriately for different life situations, they develop flexibility and resilience that serves them across various challenges and relationships. This integration process often requires conscious work to heal the original wounds that created fixation on particular archetypal patterns, allowing natural flow between different aspects of feminine expression. 8. The art of reading people through deep psychology. Mastering the ability to read people through psychological understanding requires developing a sophisticated awareness of human nature that goes far beyond surface observations. Carl Jung spent decades studying the intricate patterns of human behavior, discovering that every person operates according to predictable psychological principles that reveal themselves through consistent patterns in thinking, feeling, and behaving. This final skill synthesizes all previous insights into a comprehensive understanding that transforms how you perceive and interact with others. The foundation of psychological reading lies in understanding that every behavior serves a purpose, even when that purpose remains unconscious to the person performing it. When someone repeatedly creates the same problems in different relationships or situations, they're unconsciously working to resolve old psychological wounds through familiar patterns. A woman who consistently chooses unavailable partners isn't unlucky in love. She's unconsciously recreating familiar dynamics that allow her to maintain control over emotional vulnerability while appearing to seek connection. Psychological defenses reveal themselves through consistent patterns in how someone handles emotional threat or challenge. These defensive strategies developed during childhood to manage overwhelming experiences, but they continue operating automatically in adult relationships, even when they're no longer necessary or helpful. Someone who uses humor to deflect serious conversations learned early that emotional intensity was dangerous, while someone who becomes analytical during emotional moments discovered that thinking provided safety when feeling became overwhelming. The concept of projection becomes crucial for advanced psychological reading. People consistently see in others what they cannot acknowledge in themselves, creating external dramas that represent internal conflicts. When someone frequently complains about others being dishonest, manipulative, or selfish, they're often struggling with these same qualities in themselves. Understanding projection allows you to see beneath surface complaints to the deeper psychological material someone is processing. Repetitive patterns in someone's life story reveal core psychological themes that continue operating beneath conscious awareness. The woman who repeatedly finds herself in relationships with men who become controlling isn't attracting controlling men. She's unconsciously drawn to dynamics that feel familiar based on early experiences with authority figures. These patterns continue until the underlying psychological material is recognized and resolved. Timing and context significantly influence psychological expression. The same person might appear completely different in various situations because different environments trigger different aspects of their personality. Someone who seems confident and assertive at work might become passive and accommodating in intimate relationships, revealing different psychological strategies for different types of connection and power dynamics. Emotional intensity around particular topics indicates unresolved psychological material that continues to influence current behavior. When someone has unusually strong reactions to specific situations, people, or concepts, they're encountering triggers that connect to significant past experiences. The intensity of the reaction often correlates with the significance of the original experience and the amount of psychological energy still invested in avoiding or resolving that material. Integration and psychological maturity become visible through consistency between different areas of someone's life and their ability to handle complexity without splitting into extreme positions. Psychologically mature individuals can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, acknowledge their own contradictions, and maintain stable relationships despite occasional conflicts or differences. This integration creates a sense of authenticity and groundedness that contrasts sharply with the performance-based presentation of less integrated individuals. The ultimate goal of psychological reading isn't manipulation or control, but rather the development of genuine understanding and compassion for the complex forces that shape human behavior. When you can see the wounded child beneath adult defensive strategies, the frightened person beneath aggressive behavior, or the longing for connection beneath apparent indifference, you develop the ability to respond to others from a place of wisdom rather than reactivity. This deep psychological understanding transforms not only how you perceive others, but also how you understand yourself. The same patterns, defenses, and unconscious motivations that you learn to recognize in others operate within your own psychological system. Developing the ability to read others with compassion and insight inevitably leads to greater self-awareness and the opportunity for your own psychological growth and integration. The mastery of psychological reading requires ongoing practice, study, and personal development. As you deepen your understanding of human nature through both observation and inner work, you develop an increasingly sophisticated ability to see beneath surface presentations to the deeper psychological truths that drive human behavior. This skill becomes not just a tool for understanding others, but a pathway to wisdom, compassion, and authentic connection in all your relationships. As we reach the end of this psychological journey, remember that the ability to read others deeply comes with profound responsibility. Every person you encounter is fighting invisible battles, carrying hidden wounds, and struggling with unconscious patterns that were formed long before you met them. The insights you've gained today aren't meant to judge or manipulate, but to understand and connect with the deeper human experience we all share. When you truly see someone, their fears, their defenses, their unhealed parts, you're witnessing the raw vulnerability of human existence. Use this knowledge with wisdom and compassion, because ultimately, the same psychological forces that shape others are also at work within you. The shadows you recognize in others exist within yourself. The patterns you observe are mirrors of your own unconscious processes, and the healing you wish for others is the same healing your own soul seeks. True psychological mastery isn't about gaining power over others, but about developing the empathy and understanding that transforms both the observer and the observed, creating connections that honor the complex, beautiful, and eternally mysterious nature of human consciousness.